How to go from startup to scale up? A very common question that a lot of founders ask. And why is it important? Because without you achieving product market fit, you'll never be able to design the life that you love. My name is Saif. I built a group of companies that was last valued at over 8 figures. And in the process, I've probably experienced a lot of things that you're going through, whether it's trying to understand how do I scale my startup, how do I then create a life around the businesses that I've created, and how do I end up at the point where my startups work for me and not make me a slave. In this particular video, we're gonna help you identify how you go from startup, taking the leap to becoming a scale up. And for you to be able to understand that, the first thing that we have to start off with is what is the difference between the two different things. A startup is something that hasn't achieved product market fit. So there's a lot of iteration, you're trying to understand what is the product, who do you serve, you're probably focusing on a particular niche, you're trying to identify the business that you're trying to build through a type of product that has a product market fit. What's a scale up is something that's already achieved that. You already have the market, you already understand the customers that you want to serve, and now you're in the process of really accelerating the growth of the company that you're building because you have a product and you have customers and you know what you do for them. The most important thing though, I think for anyone on that journey is identifying as a founder how you free your future self. And that's something that I'm super obsessed about. I really believe that the greatest founders design lives that they love through the idea of understanding how do they live a life on their own terms. Because when they do this, they then design a business that's independent of them. And when you do that, you're then building a business that's based around systems, it's based on processes, that's based around the idea of scaling, because processes scale, people don't. So you need to be able to understand that. You need to be able to focus on that, the idea of freedom, because the best businesses provide that. And that allows you to then understand how do you take that leap from startup and chasing your tail, maybe living month to month, to then achieving scale up, achieving a business that is compounding either profitability to provide you with the idea of understanding how do you live a life that is one that is around the things that you care about. So the first thing, the most common thing, obviously, if we're trying to understand how to become the scale up, is that idea of product market fit, right? So a scale up has achieved that, startup hasn't. How do you achieve product market fit as the first point of call? Product market fit, I believe, at this particular stage, if you haven't already achieved it, is just simply through serving a significant few. So serving a significant few. That's the most important first step. Most founders, most business owners at that particular startup phase decide on trying to serve everybody and anybody. And what that does is create that microphone effect, which is if you're trying to speak or you're speaking into a microphone, you aren't actually addressing any particular person. Maybe that particular instrument projects your voice, but someone on the other side doesn't know it's identifying them unless obviously you call out their name. And what you want to do is, instead of speaking into a microphone, you need to speak with a significant few. And how you do that is by niching down and understanding what platform that particular customer is present on. So this was probably the biggest secret to the first company in the group of companies that I went on to build, MI in particular, which was the Muslim Influencer Network. That particular business was all based around Muslim influencers, but not serving Muslim organizations, because there's lots of agencies or influencer organizations that serve already Muslim companies because it's Muslim and Muslim. What we did is we decided to serve the non-Muslim organizations that were the global brands that hadn't had our particular product or service pitched to them, because it was something that was unique and different. So how do you serve a significant few? You need to understand what makes you unique, what makes you different, of course, in that process. And then, how do you serve a group of people, a particular group of people, that it's small enough as a category that pays you big enough to be able to grow. So for us, that was with MIN, that was in particular global brands. And we focused on a few. In particular, we started with modest fashion. Okay, that was the small enough category within the global brands category. And we knew that organizations, particularly global brands like of Primark, Gymshark, etc., would pay big enough because they're a global brand that would allow us to grow. Okay, so the first thing of going from startup to scale up is understanding product market fit. To be able to get to product market fit, you need to be able to be unique and different. You need to be serving a significant few. So that category needs to be small enough, but pay you big enough. And for us, as an example, that would be global brands, because global brands generally have more budget to be able to pay you big enough for campaigns, and that allows you to then keep compounding that growth. So that's the first thing. The second thing is most founders believe that they need more people, but I'd argue that the most important next step, once you've done this, is understand who, not how, and not all. Okay, so most startup organizations, the biggest problem is cash flow, the biggest problem is sales. So identifying who, for example, that might be people who can book you enough calls as a startup founder versus someone who's senior sales in an organization, because you probably won't have the cash to hire them. So who that allows you to do the thing that's tedious. Okay, so that who needs to take away a tedious activity that if you were to dedicate that time that you committed to that tedious activity, you would win more clients or generate more revenue. Okay. As an example, getting someone to book you calls or using a tool to book you calls, that's something that's more readily available versus finding someone that can sell your product or service as well as you can. Because if I'm being honest, no one sells as well as the founder. So you need to be spending more time in the closing side, as an example, versus the sales booking side. So because the second most important step is the who, not how, not all, and they need to be focused on removing the tedious activity, that should you commit that time to more important activities such as closing, you'd win more business. And there are more people who know how to book calls than there are who know how to close the particular sale for your product or service. And there's no one better than you as a founder. So that's the second step. Okay. The third is you need to cut the fat. Cut the fat. Most startup founders don't obsess enough about the detail. Like that's why you end up becoming a slave to your business, because you just aren't dedicated enough to be intricate enough, to be detailed enough, to be obsessed enough about the attention to detail needed to go from startup to scale up. You need to cut the fat. And that might sound harsh. I use this narrative of not becoming a slave. The way that you don't become a slave is you start to serve your business in a way that no other individual can serve it. And the way that a founder can do that is they need to turn their obsession, which is their business, into an obsession over detail that does compound, that when they do that over and over again, it becomes the differentiator for their startup. So an example is, how regularly do you check your expenditure? Like, how regularly do you categorize the things that you spend money on? It could be even a simple personal thing. Like, I do this exercise, would you believe it, with my wife. My wife and I do this particular exercise, where at the end of the month, we understand where do we spend the most amount of money for that previous month. When we understand it, then we iterate over, should this particular budget, or do we need to create a budget for that particular thing? And did it make sense to spend that amount of money? And off the back of that, we then create systems. I know you're thinking, well, this marriage doesn't sound like fun. I think my wife's got used to it. But what you need to be doing is identifying What things can you obsess over, bringing that attention to detail so you can build a system off the back of it that system serves your business towards the idea of scale. So that would be things like regularly putting into your calendar to review finances or review expenses, okay? That might be putting into your schedule time to spend with the team members that are supporting your business growth. You probably just don't spend enough time with the people in your business or the people supporting you, whether that be freelancers telling them what the standard needs to be for your organization, whether that be team members that are dedicating time to work without knowing the standard, without knowing the quality of output that they need to achieve. And that might be just you not spending more time on activities that have the most significant contribution to bottom line. For example, networking with people that you care about. You need to cut the fat, right? And you do that by becoming obsessed about the detail. When you become obsessed about the detail, that helps you understand where things are going wrong. So expenses, team members, that might be processes or freelancers, okay? Most people just, as startup founders, you spread in many places, but you don't focus on the things that would make the most difference to your organization, to your business. So once you spend more time, and the way that you do it is you're intentional about the time that you commit to that activity because you schedule it into your calendar. What that then produces, what then happens is that particular activity compounds over time, and you're then able to identify the things that you need to remove, the things that you need to change, the things that you need to do better, the things that you need to start doing to create the business that you want to be working on, the business that you've always dreamed of having. All right. As part of the cutting the fat as well is just having honest conversations. Like if people aren't performing, and most founders I find hold on to talent more longer than they should do. And the reason that they do this is because they start to get attached to the early startup contributors that they have felt like committed significantly beyond that particular person in particular should need to commit. As an example, you are hiring people because of your mission and vision. You bring someone in, they take a pay cut, or they are joining your organization at significantly less of a value than they might should they go work for someone else, should they go work for an established organization. You then believe because that person's made a sacrifice for your behalf, for your company, that you have to go above and beyond for that particular individual. That exercise is a personal exercise. So you need to make sure that you're the best human being for them outside of work. You need to make sure that you're giving them time, you're recognizing them as a human being. But if their contribution isn't helping your business move forward, then you are building an ineffective business based on emotions that aren't serving your business. So you need to not be as attached to the people that are building your business from a business perspective. From a personal perspective, you need to make sure that you're the best leader. But if they're inefficient, if they're ineffective, then you aren't helping that particular individual. Let me tell you something, because you're not establishing the idea of growth for them, you're accepting the idea of mediocrity. And that doesn't serve anyone well. It doesn't help that particular individual on their journey of growth. So you need to cut the fat, and that can be having those difficult conversations and moving people on. If you are thinking about moving someone on, generally you should do it when you start thinking about it. Unless you really believe you can coach that particular individual to higher standard of output, and that will require more time. So in the process of cutting the fat, if you've identified that, then commit to it. But if you can't commit that time, then get rid of it, because you're wasting their time as well as yours. You're not growing your business. Fourth thing is, okay, so you need to hang out now. We've gone through the first three steps. The fourth thing before the fifth and final thing is hang out, okay? Hang out where your future customers already live. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know where they live and I don't know what my customers in 5 years' time. Let's be honest. We know you want customers that pay you better. We know you want to be able to be building revenue lines that compound over time. We know right now there's an idea of living month to month. You haven't got product market fit. You need to become a scale up. So you need to think about the customers that can free you. And because we've already understood we are serving a significant few, a small enough category that pay you big enough. You understand, okay, who is going to help you reach those particular individuals. You need to hang out where they are. As an example, with the agencies that we built, we recognize that a significant portion of those clients would go to events. They'd go to influencer marketing events. They'd go to performance marketing events. They'd go to networking events that were based around their specific category. Like Anchor Butter as an example, part of Arla Group, which is a 2 billion company. Anchor Butter were an organization that we worked with. They would go to dairy events, right? Because it impacts their particular industry. So any updates, any insights at those particular events, that particular client is going to be there. So you need to hang out, you need to identify industry-related events for your ideal client of the future. And that ideal client of the future is a client that's paying you well enough, that is a client that you believe you could retain, a client that would transform your organization from something that is small and startup to becoming a scale-up. And you need to be there. And you need to not sell. The best way not to sell, but to still build trust, is to be able to speak at these events. And the best events that you're going to be able to speak up is not that industry-related event for that particular client. It's not going to be the dairy. If you're not a dairy company, it's not going to be at that dairy event. So you need to speak at an event that that particular client would be at, but allows you to establish yourself as an authority. So for us, that was with MIN speaking at the Influencer Marketing Show, which is an influence marketing event, but our clients would be there, our ideal clients would be there because they want to learn about the influence marketing industry. And then you would be attending the industry insight events that your ideal client would be at. And you just say, when you see them and you start building rapport, you talk about, look, these insights impact our clients. They don't need to know that they're not a client of yours right now, of course, or you don't have clients like them right now. But you say, look, this is impacting the type of clients, the clients that we are building our business around. So that's why we are here. This is what we do. My name is Saif. My name is John. And that's what you need to do. Hang out where your future customers are already existing and living. The final thing is, let's put 5 here, is you need to be able to appreciate scale. Okay. Scale fundamentally is built around really, really, really effective systems. And really effective systems are just consistent feedback loops. Okay. Feedback loops. You don't need a huge team to achieve scale today. So as a founder, are you spending enough time learning about AI? Are you absorbing information related to your industry and how technology is impacting it? Are you identifying a system that allows you to absorb that information so that you can turn that information into something useful? So you can turn those insights, that useful piece of information, into a authority building exercise on a particular platform? Are you then using that platform to connect with the people that you want to serve? Most often, founders don't recognize that scale is achieved by simply identifying what tools or systems already exist and spending more time to appreciate that system. So that might be like today, can you utilize ChatGPT? Can you utilize the likes of DeepSeek or other AI technologies and think of how you can integrate that particular technology into your business? Whether it be to automate, sales reach out, building connections on LinkedIn, whether that be to scrape ideas, gather ideas so you can create content around those particular ideas, whether that be to understand how you deliver more of an excellent service, not needing more individuals to do that. You need to understand scale is achieved by creating feedback loops. Those feedback loops are attached to 5 things in business. That is obviously marketing, that is sales, that is technology and technology related activities, that is people related activities, generally HR people, and that is finance related activities. So you need to create feedback loops across these 5 areas. When you do that, because you have design a business that serves a significant few to begin with, people who, it's a small enough category that pay you well enough. You then know who you need that can remove tedious activities. Generally, this can be tools and little things that you can integrate, whether it be through Zapier or other platforms that allow your systems to connect. You then know what fat you need to cut. You then hang out where your future customers already live. And then you've identified the feedback loops that you need to create through understanding an industry even better and removing any resentment or negative sentiment you have to that particular thing, because you don't know how many individuals and founders that I come across that are afraid of integrating a new tool or system or complete industry because they fear the impact of that particular thing. But in 3 to 5 years' time, they'll be using that particular thing like it was something completely normal, as in AI for today. You need to be able to commit to that action piece. You need to be able to commit to that action piece so that you're able to achieve scale. Scale is something that allows you to understand how you then become free, because you're bringing in the profit margins, because you're bringing in the idea of serving more and more customers that benefit profitability. When you have that, then you're not living month to month, then you are running away from feeling trapped, from not understanding why I created this business in the first place. When you do more of that, you then start to create a life that you love, a life on your own terms, a life based around your values. That is the ultimate objective of business. My name is Saif. I hope that you found this particular video useful. Thanks for watching.